He's incredible, simply cannot be stopped. So watch Incredible Crew pump it up and rock.
Hello, and welcome to the Pig Variety Hour. Today we have another episode of On the Couch with our resident couch potato, Novocaine. Wake up, God damn it! I told you not to sleep on the job.
Oh, hi, Dave.
I'm with my regular cameraman, Eddy Campion, and his assistant, Max X. And Novocaine, you want to let us know exactly what we got going on today?
Well, man, I was just having a nice little dream. All right, check it out. This is a record with 4 people on the cover. Now, these 4 people are some of the most important in the Seattle rap history, and basically, Dave and I are here to tell you why.
And we're going to bring 2 of them on today. Which 2?
Today, I think we're going to be talking to Danny Dee Rock, Mr. Supreme, and Nerdy B, a.k.a. B-Max.
They should be arriving any minute.
Rock the bells.
Rock the bells, bring it loud.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nerdy B! Danny Dee Rock! Live on the Seahawk couch! Okay, we put the 2 with hair on that couch. The hairless mothers right here. So Danny, tell us what you've been doing the last 30 years.
I've been DJing, buying records. I never really stopped doing what I was doing, honestly.
Nerdy B, what you been up to the last 30 years?
Pretty much the same, not nearly as much as Danny's been doing. DJing, buying records, selling records, buying records, having kids, having families, buying houses, things like that. Grown up, boring grown up stuff.
All right, let's start with this one here because this came out first.
Yes.
Okay, and this has you're producing on this one?
DJ, I did on one of the songs. So what happened was I met Danny, and then they had already recorded one side, High Powered Hip Hop, and they were in the process of finishing the B side, like mixing it down. And Danny can talk about, we wound up getting Ultimate Breaks and Beats, which is a compilation of all these breaks, where we wound up using a lot of those on King of That Poetry. And I just, all I did was basically just scratched and mixed some of those in there. But the record was pretty much already done by the time I met Danny.
Can you give us some historical perspective on Kid P?
He was going to college at Gonzaga.
Oh,
And I had a homeboy going to school out there, and they connected. So they were like on a little break, like a 2-week break or something. And he wanted to see Seattle, so he came out with him. When he came out with him, my friend hit me up, and then we was talking, and he told me he raps. And I said, well, I DJ, I make beats, and let's do something.
If I'm correct, you guys were in high school.
Yeah, of course.
Now, I think you went to Ballard High School?
I did.
And you went to Franklin?
Yeah.
My dad was a teacher there when he went there.
My stepdad worked for a record distributor, so I would get records from him. He would bring them home. And this is, I'm 9-10 years old and just started listening to, tons of soul and funk and any rap music that was out there at the time. And just started really, loving that music and collecting it. And so friends in middle school knew that I had records, and I would get asked to DJ parties, just basement house parties, things like that. So by the time I was in high school, I was DJing high school dances, making tapes, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to start trying, my thing was like, I want to make a record, and didn't really know how, what to do, and wound up getting introduced to Chanel.
She also went to Franklin High School
too. Yeah.
These are Seattle high schools.
Yeah. So Benjamin Franklin High School on Rainier Avenue, and so we met Chanel, and also met Danny, and him and I started just doing stuff, talking about records and everything. And so that's kind of how we all got together.
You said you met Danny. You guys were in high schools that were very far apart.
Yeah.
How did you guys come together?
So what happened was I was friends with Carter, Fever One, who's a incredible breakdancer in the Rocksteady crew, DVS, and he introduced me to Danny. Danny was actually doing a show out in the Spectrum nightclub down in Tacoma Federal Way area, and had one turntable. So I wound up loaning him. He wanted to rent my turntable, and I said, No, you just borrow it. And so he borrowed my turntable, and that's kind of how we got introduced, was through Fever One.
Let's go to Danny. So we're in high school, and you're doing a show at the Spectrum. How old are you?
16, I think.
16. Whew. Wow.
The transformation from a DJ to a producer is a flip that not everybody makes successfully. You can be a great DJ and you try making beats and they might just all be soaking wet weak. So the key is both of these guys were able to have a career as DJs as young kids or as students and then transition that to being producers. I'm curious to know how that went, how that kind of process went.
Well, for me, I think it's a natural progression. When you start listening to records, and then as a DJ, if you want to blend the record on beat, well, I'm going to need 4 or 8 bars of an instrumental section. So when you step back to think about producing, you produce a record with that in your mind. Now, the average person ain't thinking like that. So I'm sure for him or for me, when we make a beat, we're going to know, let's open these 8 bars up. So when a DJ plays this record, they can mix it in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like if you get a lot of songs nowadays, they're not like that. Like you listen to it and you're like, well, how am I supposed to drop this record in? Some of them even come in off beat. It's crazy nowadays. But I just think it's a progression, DJing, listening to records, and then you start to realize even the formation of, there's 16 bars, there's a bridge, there's a hook, there's a chorus, there's breakdowns here, and you figure out how a record or how a song is formatted and made. And then you naturally know how to go into it when you start producing.
Now, the equipment you use to DJ is a lot better today, am I correct?
No.
No, it's better back then?
I would say so.
Okay.
You've all gotten together. How did the average song come together? Did they come together fast, or would it take weeks to put a song together? That's what I'm curious about. On this record, would those have been like highly concentrated recording sessions or spread out over a long period of time?
They were spread out because it was hard to work with Chanel because she was younger than us. So she was in school, we was in school, and you think 2 guys show up to your house and they want to take your daughter out all night. It's not happening, you know what I'm saying? So that kind of stalled the process. But I think as far as producing, we had ideas already. Like from listening to records, like, this is a dope beat. We want to use this. Or, hey, let's use this piano. And so with experience, a lot of the stuff was kind of already made when she came around. Mm-hmm. It was just the process of getting her to actually record.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of times with Chanel, it was funny because just like Danny said, we had to go over to her mom's house and pick her up. And a lot of times we'd have to stay there for like an hour and talk to her mom. To get, like Danny said, she don't know who we are. We're just showing up at her house saying,
her mom's protective. She's smart.
We want to take your 14-year-old daughter out to go record in the middle of the night, and so it was definitely, we earned her trust, and I think she came, her mom came to trust us. And Chanel would actually, like Danny said, she would actually write a lot by herself, and then we would have music for her, and then she would, we'd have a beat for her. And she'd wind up putting whatever lyrics she had to that particular beat.
How old was Chanel on this record?
So she was, I think she was like in 9th and 10th grade.
She published a book of poetry about 10 years ago that has it's really inspirational. What I like about her poems are, they're not abstract where you just get lost in it. And it's not just poetry for the sake of words. You read it and you feel better. You're like, this is like a good empowering message. So hats off to Chanel for what you were doing. Like, that's a cool message that she's doing poetically.
Deceased, unfortunately, and he didn't live long enough to see the record.
Cornell.
Danny, would you please talk about him?
Yeah, so that was my partner. Even before I met Ben, I don't even recall how I met Cornell. But I do know that when we met, we just clicked. And it's like we were almost best friends instantly. We was like brothers, you know what I'm saying? And we always hung out. And it wasn't even about any of this. We're just friends, you know what I'm saying? Just eat and hang out and have fun, basically. Go to nightclubs and look for chicks and buy records. But he was always very artistic. Like he'd sit there and he'd be scribbling on paper and you'd go look at it. And it'd really be like a lifelike picture or whatever he was drawing. Super artistic. And then when I got the SP 1200, even before that, I had an 808. And he came by the house and he asked, "Oh, can I mess around on this?" And he made like the illest beat in 10 seconds. He didn't even know how the machine worked yet, but he sat there and figured it out. And every piece of equipment, everything I had, he'd sit there with no manual and just play with it and figure it out, and like was great at it.
He was a natural.
Yeah, he was.
Now, your inspiration behind us putting this back out was kind of to commemorate and
Yeah.
and so you feel the chapter of his life is closed.
For sure.
And he died. What, it was last year or
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
2 years
Just
ago.
got real sick and passed away.
And so, unfortunately, we cannot have him on the show, but the show is dedicated to his living memory. So in rock and roll, you'll have a band make a record, they'll have a producer. The producer will get some credit, but
Right.
usually not very much. In rap, it's completely different. Can you sort of explain the
But
process?
usually in rap, it's the guy that actually makes the music.
Is the producer.
Not like in rock where he has the ear and he knows and can tell the musicians what to do.
Perfect description.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, that cut it. No game?
I mean, you just made me think about like Pharrell in the 2000s. Like Pharrell 10 years ago, he would make a beat for an artist, and no matter who the artist was, you knew it was a Pharrell beat. You just knew it, and that's like a signature that some artists have. It takes me back 10 years before that to somebody like Puffy, who felt the need to put his name on every song, and was like actually insulted by Suge Knight for that. So Suge Knight famously said to all rappers, if you want a producer who's not going to put his name on your song, come talk to me. So producers have gone through like definitely public phases and more private phases, but I feel like the way like the Neptunes approached it, it would be like, here's so-and-so with the Neptunes. Here's like, this cat with the Neptunes, this lady with the Neptunes. And pretty soon you hear the Neptunes, they had a phenomenon. So like the Incredible Crew is that same, to me, captures that same energy of like, what's the Neptunes? Like, what's Incredible Crew? And then you realize the more your ear hears it, your ear will tell you it's the Neptunes. Your ear will tell you it's Incredible Crew. Like, that's how it breaks down for me.
I think you guys answered the question.
I don't know how many times I would be over at his house in high school, shortly after high school. We'd watch Tyson fights, we'd just hang out and eat. It wouldn't even be sometimes we wouldn't even turn on equipment sometimes. It would just be there hanging out and just having fun and being a kid,
Those Tyson fights must have been a short period of hanging out. I remember paying $30 to see it at the Coliseum, and it was over in 40 seconds.
Yeah.
I think a big thing for me was the Wild Style movie and seeing that. And getting that soundtrack and just being like blown away by it. It's like, I mean, it was the most amazing thing that I heard or seen or anything. And I think that really, everybody will talk about the scene where Grandmaster Flash is in his kitchen DJing, and that's when you're like, oh man, that just kind of blew my mind at the time and really made me want to go, a little bit further and try and do this.
So you almost stole Danny's thunder, but I didn't let you. Danny, what DJs influenced you outside of Seattle?
Yep.
And then in Seattle, did you have any mentors or anybody? I mean, there really wasn't much going on.
No, there wasn't. Like you said, there really wasn't a lot of DJs doing it the way I wanted to do it. And the way I wanted to do it is because I saw it done. That was Red Alert. When I was in New York on vacation when I was like 14 years old. And that was the first thing. I didn't see him. I heard him on the radio. But I heard what he was doing. I heard the breaks being cut back to back and how he was rocking. So I couldn't imagine really how he was doing it. I thought it might have been edited or something. But after I came back home, they did this jam here, and Treacherous 3 came to town. And DJ Easy Lee was up there. I don't remember the record, but he was, going behind his back, under his leg, turning around, back to back. And I was like, oh, I gotta do that. Like, that was the one, that was really the one that lit the fire, like, oh, I wanna do that. Because I was dabbling before that, but not like that. As far as locally, I used to go practice breakdancing at my friend's house, and his older brother had a set of turntables. Like, he wasn't no great DJ, but he knew some records, and he had 2 turntables. So he let me, use go in there and mess with the stuff. So he influenced me a lot.
You just put yourself on the spot here. Can you still break dance?
Of course.
Hit the floor. Come on. All right, guys, let's go. Yeah, I'm gonna help you up. Oh, come on, Danny. Have some spirit.
There's some videos out there.
All right, we will get some of those videos of Danny Dee Rock breakdancing. Danny, what's the future hold for you?
Man, I don't know. We're gonna see.
Well, after COVID, yeah, we're all in that.
It's a big day today, man. We're moving in the right direction as a nation.
Yes, we have a new president.
We're at the beginning of change, and we'll see where the future goes for all of us.
Well, hopefully the racism and the hate disappears from our country.
Yeah,
Exactly.
chip away at it, man.
Nerdy, any parting comments?
I listen to it and I hear a lot of really good ideas and great kind of origins of a song that I wish we would have been able to kind of see through to fruition, to have it given the same attention that we did to that first song. It's incredible because there's a lot of, like I said, really great ideas on it, but we weren't able to kind of move it to the next phase, the next stage. So, but yeah, I'm really excited that it came out finally after all these years.
Good, yeah, me too. How the two of you feel about, the mentions and the praise and the facts that you guys are actually a big piece of not just Seattle rap history, but rap history. I mean, it must be invigorating.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like Ben said, we were just kids, man. We were just doing what we do. And when you do it, you're creating and you're being creative and you're doing something, you're making something. You don't know you're making history. You really don't know what you're doing, until years later, it comes out, and then you can look back and you're like, wow, even the samples we use and stuff we were doing was really early, and like a lot of people weren't doing it. Like even the substitution beat, we used that first, but the record never came out, so the world don't know that. They say Ultramagnetic used it first, but no, we used it before they did.
I do have to make a word for our sponsors. So, when we're getting a tattoo at Maple Valley Tattoo, we're drinking our wine from Vino Aquino, and after a sip of wine in that tattoo chair, I go to my CBD from Nava. It's actually little pouches of CBD that you put in a vape, and they take the THC out. So anyway, look for the Nava pouches. I would also like to make a shout out to Vibrant Magazine. It's Seattle's free entertainment and arts magazine. They recently did a full page feature on every rap, including Nerdy B, Chelly Chell, Danny, and Chili Uptown. So look for Vibrant and make sure you support the magazine. We do have a parting gift for you, Nerdy B. Our recent episode of Swizzle Comics by the legendary Anthony Osgang. Danny has a much better agent. He's got a trip for 2 round trip to Paris, France, including 7 nights accommodations.
Perfect.
Danny, you are back on the spot. You're taking us out.
Am I?
You're taking us out here.
Okay, let's go. I'm taking you out. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. You've been tuned into the Pig Variety Hour on the couch. Danny, Nerdy B, and our resident couch potato, Novocaine 132.